the best teams in the NFL entering Week 7? That is actually an extremely difficult question to answer. Guys, the NFL right now is not very good. So it makes power rankings and ranking every NFL team extremely messy. But as we always do every week on the Bottom Line View, I will rank every NFL team from the worst to the best, number 32 to number 1. And I will give you my honest opinion on your favorite team. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button, don't be a jabroni, and subscribe to the channel for weekly NFL power rankings just like this. Of course, we have some big-time movement this week. We're not trying to overreact, but we are trying to react to what's gone down. I will say this. I have no idea who's going to win the Super Bowl. Let's get started. Let me know in the comments your opinion on my rankings. Who's overrated? Who is underrated? And where does your favorite team belong? Let's get started with, at number 32, I have the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are so bad that they just fired their coach. That says it all, doesn't it? Brian Callahan, in 2 seasons, 4-19, with a below 20% cover percentage. Gone are the days that you can't take the Titans on the spread. Or maybe not, but we'll see. The Tennessee Titans are still terrifically bad. They have fired their head coach. And of course, with that, the offensive line coach, his father, has left the team. Cam Ward, good luck. Now you have to face Mike Vrabel, who's angry because the Titans fired him for this jamoke. This jabroni. The Tennessee Titans looks like they never had a chance to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Do you know how bad you have to be as a football team to never look like you have a chance against the Raiders? Think about that for a second. But at least they got rid of Brian Callahan. I will give them credit for that. That being said, I don't know what this team does well. They don't stop the run. They don't rush the quarterback. They can't throw. They can barely run it. They don't protect the quarterback. They had the first pick last year, and it looks like they'll have the first pick this year. And this might have been an 0-17 team if not for the Arizona Cardinals pissing down their leg. At number 31, the only reason the New York Jets are not last is because the Tennessee Titans exist. But it's hard to argue that the Jets could be any worse. The New York Jets are incompetent. There has truly never been a better description of the word incompetent than the New York Jets franchise. They are incompetently coached, incompetently quarterbacked. Their owner is incompetent. And their offense can't move the ball. I almost want to say that they probably allowed more yards when they were sacked than they gained in the game. Sacked 9 times by the Denver Broncos. Garrett Wilson is now injured. We have to watch the biggest jabroni on the sidelines in the NFL for probably the rest of the season. Hopefully he's gone after just 1 season. I don't know how much longer I can take Aaron Glenn. At number 30, the Cleveland Browns. Now here's the thing with the Browns. Not that long ago, I had them closer to 20. And it was strongly and solely because of the defense. But here's the thing. Yes, Cleveland's better at home. And Cleveland will probably be competitive in a lot of games. But the Cleveland Browns are simply that team that can't win games. They can compete better than some of the bottom tier teams because of their defense, but they can't actually win games. So that's why they're at number 30. They have a rookie third-round pick quarterback throwing the ball 52 times in a game with no tackles. Pressure all over the young man. Dylan Gabriel had no chance. I like some of their players. Judkins looks promising. This rookie class actually looks promising as a whole. It's looking like a great trade that they made with the Travis Hunter swap. Mason Graham looks good. Schlesinger looks good. It's a good draft. But they can't score points. They can't consistently move the ball, no matter who the quarterback is. And defensively, yeah, they're good. But they just, eventually they wear out. And they're getting systematically dissected by every team. So Cleveland is just an example of a team that, sure, if you measure competitiveness, they could be like 26, 23 maybe. But in terms of actually being a threat to win a damn game, they're number 30. At number 29, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are really bad. But the thing is with the Raiders is they've still won a couple games, believe it or not, despite how bad they are. Last week, they beat the Titans. Congratulations. Brock Bowers needs to get healthy for this team. I don't know what's going on with the Jacoby Myers thing. I don't know why he's not utilized within the offense. Their offensive line absolutely sucks. Ashton Genty has been a bit better the last couple of games. Defensively, like I say every week, they're the 2020 All-Star Pro Bowl team. Actually, Devin White is playing really well. I'm keeping my eye on Max Crosby to see if he actually does get traded. But man, I will say this. The combination of Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly is going far worse than I ever imagined. I thought Pete Carroll was washed. He's like 1,000 years old. But I never would have really imagined that the Raiders would be this bad. I never thought that Geno would look this bad. I thought they would at least be competent. I mean, how much worse can you be? They look maybe worse than Antonio Pierce. That says a lot. So at number 29, the Raiders. At number 28, the Cincinnati Bengals. I actually think the Bengals could be risers soon. I'm starting to believe in this Joe Flacco Bengals club. I think Joe Flacco is going to go out there weekly, give this team some inspiration, some hope, some leadership, and he's going to spin it. And Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have a point to prove. I like how he's getting the ball out of his hands, finding a rhythm, and keeping that offensive line from ruining the game. That's a big deal. Defensively, I've said this for a couple weeks now. I feel like they're playing better than the amount of yards, amount of points. Like, statistically, it doesn't line up with how they're actually looking on the field. I feel like they're playing competent defensively. Maybe it's like because their offense has been so bad or it hasn't been what we're used to. But I kind of feel like the Bengals defense is better this year. Crazy, I know. I still think Trey Hendrickson needs to get traded. I definitely feel like Trey Hendrickson needs to get traded. He's on a 1-year contract. Give him to a contender. The Bengals aren't going anywhere this year. Joe Flacco, no Joe Flacco. Jake Browning, no Jake Browning. Joe Burrow, doesn't matter, bro. Joe Burrow's not coming back until the end of the year. So Get rid of Trey Hendrickson. Get a draft pick. Somebody could use him in the playoffs. The Patriots. Send them there. At number 28, I have the Bengals. At number 27, the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins found a way to blow another game. Congratulations to the Dolphins. Darren Waller, the rapper, put them ahead late. And then Justin Herbert happened, and the Dolphins imploded at home once again. And then after the game is the real story. Tua, the leader, the captain, with the C on his chest, throwing everybody under the bus. This team is not only bad, they can't get to the quarterback, they can't cover anybody, their offensive line can barely block. They're not only bad, but their quarterback is an absolute geek. And they have real problems in that locker room. I feel like this team is a ticking time bomb. At number 26, the New Orleans Saints gained my respect this week. I've had them at number 32 for a decent portion of the season. They've obviously moved up. They're not winless, but they're not good, but they're also not bad. I want to say Kellen Moore has done a good job. I doubted Kellen Moore. You know, he doesn't exactly come across as my type of leader, my type of head coach. But he's always had a smart brain for offense. And I think he's brought a lot of good things to the Saints offensively. He's clearly gotten a lot out of Spencer Rattler, who's playing pretty damn well. I thought he played really well against the Patriots. They're playing with good pace, tempo, and balance. I feel like their run game has evolved from last year to this year. I feel like their pass game, especially their short passing game and their quick passing game, has been much more refined than previous seasons and more reliable than previous seasons. It makes them watchable. And I'm just going to start to pay attention to Spencer Rattler and to see if this guy can develop into their quarterback of the future. Offensive line-wise, they're solid. Run game-wise, they're pretty good. Receivers, we know they have talent. Defensively, they can stop the run, but not the pass. That's pretty much the story. But that doesn't sound like a bad team on paper. It really doesn't. They're just lacking a little bit of firepower on defense. And they're lacking just a little bit of oomph from that offense and some situational playmaking. But for a bad team, this team is at least watchable. And they've got some interesting elements. So at number 26, we'll see how much they're sellers as well soon. At number 25, the New York Giants. The Giants just dismantled the Philadelphia Eagles on primetime. And I have to give Brian Daboll and his staff a lot of credit. I thought they completely outcoached the Eagles. They had the Eagles just off balance all game defensively. Vic Fangio didn't have any answers for Daboll's attack. And it felt like Jackson Dart had a coming out party in primetime. Didn't have Malik Neighbors. It didn't matter. Little Jordan Humphrey, baby. Didn't matter. Right? The offensive line of the Giants, I think, is getting slept on with how well it's playing this year. I feel like they've really been a lot more reliable and consistent than previous years. Maybe it helps that Dart plays with a little bit more of a moxiness, a elusiveness that was not seen by Russell Wilson or Daniel Jones or previous quarterbacks. But there's a real energy here. There's a real positivity with the Giants that I feel like I haven't seen in a long time out of this franchise. This has been a very negative franchise for quite some time. And they finally have a little energy, a little vibe. Now, I'm not a truther of Jackson Dart, and I'm still waiting to believe. But at least the fan base believes. At least there's hope. That's a big deal. And in Jackson Dart's case, maybe a new hope for Star Wars fans. But defensively, they're also just awesome at the line of scrimmage, and they just dominate games. And Brian Burns has been incredible this year. I feel like with the combination of offensive vibrance and just the domination of their front seven, they're very live to upset a lot of teams. And they've already done it to the Chargers and the Eagles. This team is more relevant than I would have thought at this portion of the season. At number 24, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are at 24. They were seemingly the team that made the most sense. I think they're sitting at 2-4. They feel like a better team than 2-4. But of course, they dropped that Titans game. So to me, they're more of like a 3-3. They feel like an 8-9, 7-10 type of team. I think the biggest storyline coming out of the Colts game is Kyler Murray is in the wrong offense, and the Cardinals run the wrong offense for Kyler Murray. If you can get better production out of Jacoby Brissett, who was an absolute jabroni for the Patriots last year, then why pay Kyler all that money? Why not trade him? And I'm intrigued to see this offseason what happens and what comes out of Kyler Murray in terms of, do they trade him? I would love to see him on a different team, personally. I feel like the Cardinals, they do some good things. I really like when they do have that Jacoby Brissett offense, when they're running the ball from under center, play action. It is kind of Stefanski, Browns-ish. Defensively, I think they're just solid. They're not great. They're not bad. They're improved from last year, but it's not enough to uplift an offense that's not living up to expectation. They're a very average team. I did think they would come to play against the Colts, and they did. They almost won that game. They nearly deserved to win that game. And I think that speaks volumes about Jonathan Gannon, because he was looking like an absolute jabron after he punched a player on the sidelines. But the team responded, and the team came out and played hard. So I give them some credit for that. But this team is a little underwhelming to the fan base's standard. I think they were expecting more this season, but I feel like from a mainstream NFL perspective, they're about where people expected. They're pretty average. They're probably the worst team in their division, but it's not because they're bad. It's just because they're mediocre and the rest of the division is a little bit better than that. At number 23, the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Dak is getting Romo'd. The defense stinks. They might be the worst in the league. It's depressing. Dak Prescott leads the NFL in EPA, and it literally does not matter. They are below 500, and they have the quarterback leading the league in EPA. Dak has been an MVP candidate. George Pickens is an animal. I think he's better than DK Metcalf. I think he was the best pickup of free agency, possibly. I mean, my goodness. Now we're going to see CeeDee Lamb and Pickens. I mean, Dallas is must-watch television. They are. I mean, I can't wait to see the over-unders for this team for the rest of the year. It's going to be like regular 30 points on both sides. It's just going to be unbelievable television. But it's not good for winning games. So I hope Dak keeps it up. I'm really pumped for the offense. The defense has got to figure it out, dude. Got to figure it out. The linebackers stink, man. Overshown, please save us. The Dallas Cowboys are at number 23. A potent offense, a crap defense, a one-sided team. At number 22, the Carolina Panthers. Keep pounding. The Carolina Panthers are going to keep pounding. Next up, they got the New York Jets. If they can't beat the Jets, then the Panthers are just phony. If they can't beat The Jets on the road, they can't win a road game, period. They're 3-0 at home, 3-0 on the road. I get it, but the Jets are the Jets. You got to beat the Jets, Bryce. You got to. Rico Dowdle said the Cowboys better be ready, and they were not ready for that man. The Panthers, bullying teams. Back-to-back weeks. Soft Cowboys, soft Dolphins. Keep pounding them into the dirt. And then their defense is stopping the run. That's good. But can you please figure out, Evero, to put J.C. Horn on the best receiver? Why are you paying him all that money if you're going to play your boundary corner, your field corner? We got to get matchups going. Michael Jackson is getting fried. He's getting fried. He's got to beat it. Get to the bench, bro. Wow. Figure it out, Evero. At number 21, the Minnesota Vikings. Durkant thinks this team is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think they're still a little overrated. Defense, I still need to see if they can stop the run. Secondary, I don't love their corners. But I love Flores' scheme. They're absolute madmen. They have a very good pass rush. Blake Cashman will return soon. They're ballers on that side. And offensively, the offensive line has been shaky all year given the injuries. They're still going to be dealing with that. Aaron Jones will return soon. We'll add a little bit of balance to the offense along with Jordan Mason with a little bit of more, receiving flair out of the backfield. Justin Jefferson is still amazing. But this team ultimately is capped this year because the quarterback position for this team is simply underwhelming. I think J.J. McCarthy is better than Carson Wentz. But the fact that we don't know that to be true for an absolute fact speaks to where this team is at. I think they'll be competitive down the stretch and in the running, but I just feel like this team has no ceiling because they don't have a quarterback. And the offensive line feels like one of the most inconsistent units in the entire NFL. So at number 21, the Vikings. At number 20, Baltimore. Now this is based on Lamar Jackson returning potentially. I didn't want to put them too high, but I also didn't want to put them too low. So I'm trying to find that soft spot. There are rumors Derrick Henry could be a Patriot soon. He's joining Trey Hendrickson on the Patriots very soon. I want to see Lamar go on a run here because I want to see the Ravens still make the playoffs. I think it's still very possible. I just don't know if it'll come by winning the division. The Steelers would have to have a pretty big collapse for that to happen. But if you look at the Ravens' schedule, they don't have too many more contenders that they have to face. They've already faced Buffalo. They've already faced Houston. They've already faced Kansas City. The division winners of last year is what I'm pointing at here. They still have a few teams that maybe they have to take on like the Patriots, but I don't necessarily know that there are a ton that are standing in their way if this offense is cooking at full strength. Right? Because I still think they're a top 10, top 5 potent offensive attack when Lamar is in there. And there's just not a lot of teams that can really, go toe-to-toe with that. Defensively, though, they've got to play like they did against the Rams, which is at least competent. Bend but don't break. Physical. I do think that the Gilman trade helps them. This team wants to be very diverse and coverage flexible, and their safeties and corners are more important to this team than a lot of other teams. And I'm intrigued to see how they can fix their defense through the secondary, even if they don't get a ton of pass rush with Madubuike out for the year. So the Ravens, I think, are still a threat to make a push towards the playoffs, but they might be last year's Bengals, where it's just a little bit too late. They might actually be a team that misses that could have been a pretty big threat if they make it. But we'll see. They still have a chance. I have them at number 20. At number 19, the Houston Texans. I wanted to rank them higher initially, but I realized that they've only beaten the Titans and the Ravens without Lamar. So, I don't know how much I can really rank them too much higher. But but I have really liked the trajectory of this team. And let's not forget, they've lost to some pretty damn good teams. Like, it's not like they've been losing to terrible football teams. They've been losing to teams that have good records, right? And their offense has been exposed, but perhaps through the bye week and through these last couple of weeks, they found a formula in the run game in their backfield between Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. And maybe they're going to use a little bit more of Jaden Higgins moving forward, and perhaps CJ Stroud has his swagger back after that Ravens performance. And defensively, they are the best defense in football. Like, no debate. They are the best defense in football. They're the most consistent defense in the NFL. They dominate the bad offenses. They hang with the good offenses every single time. To score 30 points on this team would be pretty rare. So, given the fact that they have the best defense in football and an offense that's starting to hum, they're an extremely dangerous team that I kind of want to be backing and betting on moving forward. So at number 19, the Texans are going to be dangerous. At number 18, the Chicago Bears. I like what I've seen from the offense and its evolution. I think Caleb is getting better. And Ben Johnson is starting to find his rhythm with this play calling and with this offense. The offensive line is good. The run game had a breakout game. DeAndre Swift. Swift is one of those backs where it feels like he's really electric. He has like a couple plays a game where it's like he looks like a top tier running back in the NFL. They have a bunch of different weapons. I still feel like they need to use Loveland and Burden a bit better and a bit more, perhaps. Defensively, though, I still have my concerns. I did feel like they maybe had their best performance of the season against the Commanders, maybe the Dallas game. But against the Commanders, it felt like they made some timely plays, some timely sacks, interceptions, enough for them to win the game. And of course, they had the Jake Moody story, which is just funny. But the Chicago Bears feel like pretty average, pretty mid, more of an offensive-led team with a questionable defense. They could also be in the running here, but their division and their schedule is really difficult to overcome. That's kind of the problem. At number 17, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are really not good at anything except for maybe pass defense. Their offensive coordinator is an absolute jabroni. Their head coach has the funniest facial expressions in football. Saquon is cursed. Jalen Hurts is a future McDonald's employee. A.J. Brown is a future Patriot, joining Trey Hendrickson and Derrick Henry at the trade deadline. The offensive line is still great, and they still give Hurts a ton of time, but it doesn't matter. He still has the lowest ADOT in the league. Defensively, their pass rush is clearly not the same, especially when Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith aren't there. And the secondary, it just feels like there's just obvious weaknesses that teams take advantage of every week. The Eagles are in big trouble. They face a difficult schedule, and I don't know if this coaching staff has the intelligence, the smarts, or the capabilities of recovering and making adjustments. This feels like 2023 all over again. At number 16, the Los Angeles Chargers. The definition of a mid team, carried by a very good quarterback and a set of weapons and a pretty good defense. I kind of feel like, Jim Harbaugh kind of continues to be overrated. Can't overcome the injuries that he does have. Meanwhile, there's other coaches that literally are losing half their team. I really like what I've seen from the run game. No matter the running back the last couple of weeks, I think Greg Roman has done well there with Vidal and Hampton rushing for big gains in consecutive weeks. It feels like 2, 3, 4 weeks now. They've been running the ball pretty well. Vidal looked really good. Ladd McConkey finally got going, which is great because he needs to get going for this team to be a playoff team. This is a lot lower than I feel like a lot of other people have them. And I like Justin Herbert a lot, but I just feel like this team has a lot of flaws. And specifically at the line of scrimmage, they're extremely flawed. You can run the ball on them. It's easy to protect against them because they don't have a great pass rush. And offensive line-wise, they're decimated, and it feels like if you have a half-decent pass rush, you're going to be able to get stops because Herbert's under way too much duress. That also ruins the run game. So, number 16, I am surprised they ran the ball that well considering their offensive line. But at number 16, I have the Chargers. I feel like Herbert will keep them afloat, but I just feel like against anyone above average, they're going to be exposed. At number 15, the Commanders. I have the Commanders at 15. I feel like there's still a really good offense, like between their running game with Bill, Jaden Daniels running the ball, keeping it himself, Terry McLaurin coming back, Deebo Samuel in his season so far. The offensive line is competent. Cliff Kingsbury's coaching and scheming. And I still think they're a dangerous offensive team that can pace a game and control a clock and kind of keep you on your toes and on your heels. But then on the other side, the defense is just not good. Like they want to play man. They can't do it. Their corners aren't capable. Their linebackers are slow and old. Their safeties are not very good. Their pass rush is not great. Their run defense got exposed against the Bears. Feels like at every level, their defense is just not good enough despite good coaching from Dan Quinn. I feel like they're a team that will be like 9-8, 8-9, flirting with the playoffs. They feel like they could make it, but I think they're just going to be kind of like the Chargers, exposed against better competition. They were even, kind of exposed by the Bears, which isn't exactly a good team. So at number 15, the Commanders. At number 14, I have the 49ers. This one hurts. I actually think, when I look back at it and I'm looking at the landscape of the NFC right now, if the Niners were fully healthy, I feel like I'd be selling this team to make the Super Bowl right now. But that's obviously not the case. They haven't had their offense the entire season. They've had two different quarterbacks, numerous receivers. The only guy that has been healthy has been CMC, and I hope that continues because he's a legend. The offensive line has its issues, specifically on the interior, but I feel like it's been good as a pass blocking unit for the most part. It's just that they've been struggling with the run blocking aspect, which is very rare for a Shanahan attack. And I do think they need to kind of get that going to take the pressure off their defense, because their defense without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner is just not any good. Like, they're a bottom 5 defense in football right now. They can't get to the quarterback, and they're very exposable. They have a couple different players at safety and or linebacker that you can just target consistently and get yards on. So Saleh has to find a way, at least until the trade deadline when reinforcements come, to get some pressure by blitzing or by doing some creative things, because with a simple front 4 rush, they're not going to get it done. Sitting back and playing zone without Fred Warner calling the shots. They looked completely lost on defense without Fred Warner. And it's sad because, like I said, with Warner, with Bosa, with all these weapons healthy, the Niners might have won the NFC this year. Like, they were looking like that. They were trending like that. The fact they were able to beat a team like the Rams with all their backups, compete with teams like Seattle and the Jags with a bunch of backups, it speaks to how good they could have been. But that's the story of the 49ers the last 2 years. What could have been? Maybe next year will be their year, but it just feels like the 49ers are cursed. They're just a cursed football team. They're still good. They're still above average because Kyle is that good. And it feels like they have 2 different quarterbacks that can win them games, which is a pretty big cheat code. But I have them at number 14 because of that defense specifically. I think the offense, when it does get healthy, is going to be a real problem for basically every defense in the league. At number 13, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are an example of not a great team, but a team that is starting to trend in the right direction. I'm starting to believe in their identity, and they're starting to find their identity. And that having an identity alone is a good thing in this NFL. So what we saw against Cleveland and Minnesota was an improvement from their running game. And I feel like that's against 2 good, competent defenses. I really like what I saw against Cleveland in terms of their screen game and their usage of 2 and 3 tight end packages and the play action and Aaron Rodgers and just Aaron Rodgers' ability to extend and make some creative, fun plays, which is something that we didn't really see last year. DK Metcalf is playing really well. they do still need to find a second receiver, and maybe they will trade for one at the deadline. Maybe even one of the Niners receivers. Like, I could see Jawan Jennings or Brandon Ayuk potentially getting dealt to the Steelers. I wouldn't be too surprised by that, to throw that out there. And that would maybe take the Steelers to a different level, because it does feel like they're lacking something on offense. The offensive line still has my concern, but it's certainly been a lot better the last 2 weeks against really good defensive lines. And it's because I feel like they're scheming it up so well. And Arthur Smith deserves a lot more love for what he's doing with Aaron Rodgers. It's not easy to work with Aaron Rodgers, but I feel like Arthur Smith is doing a really good job of kind of meshing the two ingredients together, the two offenses, the two styles together. And then Aaron Rodgers, man, like, give him a lot of love and credit for what he's been able to do from a leadership standpoint, and then recently a play standpoint. I think he's played really well against two good defenses. Defensively, they are getting healthier, thus getting better. I still feel like they play a little too simple, but they need this pass rush and TJ Watt specifically to get back to prime form and to dominate. Nick Herbig has been awesome, but if that pass rush can really get to it, if you can combine an excellent pass rush and opportunistic defense with a team that doesn't make mistakes on offense, they run the ball, they have some creativity to their passing game, that's a team that's a threat in this NFL. Like, they're a threat. They might not be a contender, but they're a viable, close, competitive team with pretty much every team in the league. Especially with Rodgers, like, the way that he paces the game and the way that he controls the tempo, that's something that they haven't had. Like, that's a level of control and leadership on the field that they haven't had since old Ben Roethlisberger. Number 12, Jacksonville. Jacksonville is talented, but they feel like a team that just, they don't know, and this stems from the quarterback. They beat the Chiefs. Congratulations. They probably shouldn't have beat the Chiefs, to be honest. I thought they got outplayed. And if not for the pick six, I think they lose. Same thing could be said about the Niners game. Like, they got a punt return and won that way and some turnovers. So I think the last couple of games where they won and they beat some good teams, I kind of felt like it was good fortune, especially in the Niners case where Brock Purdy was probably at 70%, 60%. So they got a little fortunate in those games, but still, they've managed to win more than lose. They feel like a team that's just like, they don't have that element of consistency, reliability. I can't really put my finger on what it is, but it's mostly to do with Trevor Lawrence. Like, he's inconsistent throwing the ball. He holds the ball way too long. He takes way too many sacks. I mean, he got sacked, 7 times last game, and most of them were his fault. The receiving core feels out of sync and out of sorts. They don't know how to use Travis Hunter. The defense is good. The defense is legitimately good. They're good against the run. They have good linebackers. Their pass rush when healthy is pretty damn good. Their corners, I'm excited to see Newsome when he gets more reps and more understanding of the system. It's a pretty damn good unit, man. Like, I feel like that defense, along with an average offense, and the thing is, the offense should be better than average because they have so much talent. It's just that Trevor Lawrence is not very good. And that's what's really capping their ceiling. But at number 12, I do have Jacksonville here. I think they are looking like a playoff team. But if they fell apart, I wouldn't be shocked either. At number 11, the Denver Broncos. Slightly better version of Jacksonville. I feel like their offense isn't quite as talented, but they have a better offensive line. And Bo Nix and Lawrence are fairly similar. They're both pretty erratic in terms of their abilities, and they're both athletic, but it's like they're not exactly the best, most reliable passers of the ball. I will say Jacksonville's offense has been a bit better thanks to, I think Liam Cohen has done a really good job with the scheme. Denver kind of feels up and down, but Denver's defense, they dominated the Jets, 9 sacks. Their secondary is good, right? They need to get Dre Greenlaw back. Like, they really do. That would make their defense potentially terrifyingly good to where they could pretty much upset any team with a great defensive performance. And not every team with a good offense has a great defense too, right? Like, almost none in this NFL. So, and they're a team that I could actually see upsetting the Chiefs, right? Like, Everyone's kind of worried about the Chiefs now with how they looked against Detroit. Denver's an example of a team that I actually think would give them a really tough time because their defense is so good. So at number 11, I have the Broncos just outside the top 10. I'm just not quite believing in this offense right now. Too much inconsistency. I don't really know what their bread and butter is on offense. And Bo Nix is just a little bit too erratic for my liking. Entering the top 10, Atlanta. I have at number 10. The stats speak for themselves. Second in offensive yardage, first in defensive yardage. They're number 1 as a rushing football team, and they're number 1 against the pass. Those are pretty important statistics. That's some 06 Chargers shit. But I look at the Atlanta Falcons, and you got the best running back in football. They've got a really good running game, a really balanced offense. And as long as they can continue to allow Michael Penix to be a passenger and not the leader of the team, they'll continue to be able to win some games. Drake London is awesome. Mooney will be back. That will help the speed to stretch out defenses. Pitts has had his moments, didn't really on Monday night. But the Falcons' offense can move the football. Their concern has been scoring in the red zone. Their concern has been points, not yards, right? And I feel like their ceiling is dictated by what Penix becomes throughout the course of the year and how much confidence they have in him and how much he's able to grow. He's just a very dicey passer of the ball and decision maker, but he does have big time talent. Defensively, I love their blitzing scheme and their linebackers. I think their secondary is one of the most underrated in the NFL. And their pass rush is the best it's been in years. I don't think as a 4-man rush they're all that good, but they're very athletic. They're very good at keeping quarterbacks in the pocket. And they are very good as a blitzing team. Very timely, very fast, very well coordinated on that side. Atlanta's defense has exceeded expectations in a massive way. At number 9, the Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of exceeding expectations, Daniel Jones and the Colts offense is right now statistically probably the best in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor and the Colts probably feature the best run game next to the Falcons. And Daniel Jones is along for the ride, and he's doing his thing. And it feels like he can give you just enough plays to put you over the top with your scheme. I'm a little concerned about that secondary, the injuries they have. I'm concerned about their defense as a whole, their pass rush, their pass defense. And I think that will come back to bite them against the big-time teams in the playoffs, the big-time quarterbacks in the AFC. We're talking Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Drake May, and if they run into Lamar or potentially Justin Herbert. All these guys could be in the playoffs. That's going to be pretty tough. Their offense is going to have to motor them to victories. But the question will be in the back of everyone's head, when is Daniel Jones going to flop? And that probably will happen in the first or second round of the playoffs. But for Colts fans, that would be an exceptional season. That would be a surprise. That would be a fun year. And so far, the Colts have had one of the best, most fun years of any team. And they've been one of the most consistent teams, right? So I just want to see them play some better teams. Like the Broncos game, very tight, could have been a loss. Rams game was a loss, very tight, could have been a win. But they've basically been dominating some bad teams. Last week, this is the one where they didn't dominate a bad team. In terms of the Cardinals aren't necessarily bad, but they had some big injuries where it felt like they were going to be a bad team on that day. And the Colts didn't quite dominate that team. And maybe the Cardinals are a bit better than bad. So that's kind of unfair. But the Indianapolis Colts, I just want to see like, okay, are they going to be able to keep this up? You know what I'm saying? Are they going to be able to keep this up? But I believe in them as a playoff team. I think that they should be looking over their shoulder for the Texans maybe. But I really like this offense, and I think that's going to be enough for them to make their way to 10 wins and a playoff spot. At number 8, the Buffalo Bills. I'm not going to give up on the Bills just yet. I don't want to move them too low to be outrageous and ridiculous. They're still 4-2. And I don't want to, put them too high to where it's a disservice for their last couple of losses. I want to say about the Bills, I just think they need a shakeup. I think that they need to do something schematically, offensively to change things. I think they might need to make a trade for a safety or a impact defensive player, maybe a receiver. But this team has all the makings of a potential Super Bowl team. I still believe in that because they do have Josh Allen. They do have an excellent run game. They do have an excellent offensive line that didn't play like it on Monday night. But they might be missing one or two pieces to create that synergy of both sides of the ball. Defensively, they've been pretty much underwhelming all year, but they've been dealing with injuries left and right. McDermott's got to figure this thing out. There's a lot of pressure on this team. Right now, they're not playing like a top 10 team, but I'm still going to believe that they're a contender until the end because in this current state of the NFL, a team like this that might struggle early on, get its stuff together late, have Josh Allen to pull it together, it wouldn't be too surprising if this team still was the one to represent the AFC. So I have them at number 8. And number 7, Seattle. Seattle is playing really well. I don't think they're a contender, but I think they're a good team. They're also fortunate that they've been dealing with these injuries that haven't been long-term, but they've been able to overcome them at times. Against Tampa, not really. Against Jacksonville, yes. Maybe that just speaks to how good Baker's playing and how good the Bucs are playing, that they just totally exposed Seattle, but Jacksonville wasn't able to do it, which might also speak to Trevor Lawrence. But at the same time, Seattle, I just kind of feel like they're too formulaic, might be the word, like too reliant on a certain type of ball. Run, play action, get the lead, play strong defense. When things unfold and unravel for that plan, the things go the same way. When a team can actually limit Jackson Smith and Jigba's 60-yard touchdowns, how does the offense move the ball through the air? So I still have my questions about Seattle. Can they play better at home? Can they beat an actual good team? I have questions about Seattle, but at the same time, extremely impressed with their pass rush. It might be the best in the league right now. It's other than Houston and Denver, I feel like it's right in that next tier. Their secondary, when healthy, is good. And Mike McDonald's a great defensive coach. Kenneth Walker's a dog. I love what I'm seeing from Barner at tight end. They need to find a little bit more from Cooper Kupp or a little bit more from Horton or something else at receiver to complement JSN. But Darnold's playing fantastic. He's ripping the ball deep. It's just that I feel like I want to see more of a pass volume approach. Like I need to see those other elements of the team for me to buy into the contention aspect. It feels like one game their offense is really good, and then their defense isn't very good. One game their defense is awesome, and then their offense isn't quite as awesome. I need to see the cohesiveness. I need to see everything come together. I need to see the different game scripts. I need to see that sort of stuff. At number 6, the Los Angeles Rams, who are a really tough team to figure out because I thought they didn't play that well against the Ravens. They still managed to win by multiple touchdowns and cover. They lost to the Niners with all their backups at the same time. It felt like they outplayed the Niners for about 3/4 of the game, or at least a half of the game, and they kind of messed it up at the end. They should have beaten the Eagles. They totally outplayed them, but they made some mistakes on special teams. So, what is it to believe about the Rams? This team, I don't even want to say, should have a better record. They could have lost to the Colts, but they could have beat the Eagles. But they should have beat the Niners, but they didn't. But then they didn't play well against the Ravens. But then they handled the Titans and they beat the Texans. And it's like, this team on paper has a top 10 offense and maybe a top 12, top 15 defense. They've got a really good coach. I like their DC. Stafford's awesome, top 5 quarterback. Good enough run game, great receivers. What are we missing here? And that's the question I'm asking about the Rams is in this NFL, this team should be top 5. But there's just a certain aspect where they're not able to dominate the Ravens for some reason, and they're getting bullied and ran over. I don't know, man. I just need to see some more reliability, consistency from the Rams in terms of punishing and dominating teams. They just don't do that enough for my liking. So at number 6, the Rams. And I need to see them beat a really good team this year. They haven't really done that yet, weirdly enough. Number 5. The New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are my number 5. Drake May is playing like an elite MVP caliber quarterback. Their offensive line in some metrics is being graded as the best pass blocking unit in the league. I'm not sure I believe that, but they're playing really well. I could make an argument they're top 10 in pass blocking. Run blocking, though, and run game in general has been catastrophic. They need to fix that. And I trust Josh McDaniels to make that happen. He's always been very good with the run game. So I think as the year goes on and the weather gets rainy and cold in New England, the Patriots will find a way to run the ball better, and they almost need to find a way to run the ball better. And I do wonder if they make a trade for a running back. Could Mike Vrabel make that call for his boy Derrick Henry? We will see. Or Breece Hall. We'll see. But I would love Derrick Henry, man. That would be a lot of fun. But the Patriots receivers, man. I mean, Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte played really well against the Saints. Diggs played phenomenal against the Bills. I think this receiving core is kind of underrated right now. Like, Hunter Henry's good. Can they get a little bit more out of Kyle Williams to stretch the field? Do we think they could add another receiver at the deadline? I think only it would be maybe Jacoby Myers due to the McDaniels connection, or like a A.J. Brown. I think the only guy they would really go for in that regard is A.J. Brown, because I think they're happy with the chemistry and with how the passing game is playing and all that stuff. I think it's really about the run game that they need to get better. They need to get better. I don't know what, maybe they could use like a better fullback, or they need to get something involved there. Defensively, though, I think they're around the top 10 as a defense. Like, I really love their secondary. I don't love their safeties. Hawkins didn't play against the Saints. He's been actually really good for the Patriots, but I could also see them looking at a safety. I definitely think this team should be aggressive, though, because there's no reason not to be. The way that Drake May's playing, the way that this team is ascending quickly as a youthful team, the AFC is wide open this year. Like, why not make a run for a couple big-time ballers on each side of the ball? Why not go get a Trey Hendrickson and just have, like, a dominant pass rush? Like, imagine Trey Hendrickson with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore and Harold Landry. Like, forget about it. If we landed Trey Hendrickson, this team could win the Super Bowl. Like, that's crazy to say, but I mean, bro, you know what I'm saying? Jeff Simmons has a connection to Mike Vrabel, but I don't think that's a position they necessarily need. I think the linebackers have been playing better too. Like, Spillane has played better. Ellis has played better. And Tavai has helped. And I feel like the linebackers struggled early, and that was really concerning. But I think the more that they've played and gotten reps in the defense, they've kind of figured it out. So that's a good sign. Marcus Jones has been unbelievable. But man, this all comes down to, like, elite quarterback, really good coaching, really solid defense. The only real weakness the Patriots have is run offense. They're really good against the run. They're above average as a pass rush. They're above average as a coverage unit. They're above average as a passing game. And in this NFL, having just one weakness is a pretty big deal, especially when you have a guy playing this well at quarterback. So at number 5, the Patriots. At number 4, the Lions. The Lions were really beat up against the Chiefs, and maybe we didn't quite look into that enough in terms of how much that would hurt them defensively. I thought they would be able to overcome it to a certain degree, but they weren't. And I was really disappointed by the offense, in all honesty. I thought their offensive line got whooped in a way I didn't expect by a mediocre pass rush, if not a below average pass rush of the Chiefs. The Chiefs are very creative with their blitzes, and they did catch Jared Goff a few times. Their run game was a bit inconsistent against the Chiefs. But yeah, this is still at full strength. They didn't have Decker at left tackle, but at full strength, they're an elite offense. Defensively, I feel like they're above average at full strength. It's just that they're not there right now. They're a very well-rounded team, very loaded on both sides of the ball. But there's also this element of this team that it just feels like against the really elite quarterbacks, they just feel a little underwhelming. Like they can beat a lot of teams and even punish bad teams, but in the absolute biggest games against the best opponents, I do wonder if they can win those games. So there's a certain element to the Lions of like, you need to prove that you can beat the Chiefs, or like in a big game, you can win that game. You know what I'm saying? So at number 4, the Lions. At number 3, the Packers. Packers are the only team this year that have led by double digits in every game this season, which is pretty impressive. So there are people that think the Packers are overrated, but the entire NFL is relatively weak. And for a team to be able to double-digit lead on every team, kind of a miracle fluky loss to the Cleveland Browns where they were lining up for a field goal to win it and it got blocked. They tied the Cowboys. I think that was a unique spot and a unique matchup where Dallas has a quarterback and just a unit that's able to dissect you. And right now, Dallas is playing as good of offense as anybody in the league. And I do worry at times about the Packers. If their pass rush doesn't get there, their defense is susceptible to the pass against elite quarterbacks. But they move the ball really well. They're only going to get healthier at receiver, offensive line. They could maybe make a trade for somebody at corner or safety, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think the Packers are as complete as any team in the league. Jordan Love is actually leading the #1 third down offense right now. They're balanced on offense. They can hit explosives. I do think they need Watson, and they maybe need Reed too. Golden seems to be filling in for Reed pretty well. But I can't really look at the Packers and say that there's many teams better than them, to be honest. They don't really have that many flaws. Maybe they could have beaten the Bengals in a little bit more of dominant fashion, but they did put up a ton of yards. I think they had nearly 500 yards. So, I don't know. I have them at number 3. At number 2, the Chiefs. It's weird to put a 3-3 team at number 2, especially after they lost to Jacksonville a week earlier. But that performance against Detroit was in line with what we've seen against Baltimore. And then against the Jags, I do feel like they were a little unfortunate to lose that game because of the mistake Mahomes made. But it's a really well-coached team. It's Spags and Andy Reid. The defense might not be dominant any longer, but it's still capable of having a very good game plan and a very good performance against almost anybody. And the offense looks back. They can't really run the ball still, but their passing game, between the RPOs, the screens, the quick yak plays, and the downfield speed of Worthy and Thornton, complemented by Kelsey as a possession tight end, Juju over the middle, and now Rashee Rice as a true #1 receiver. I don't know how many defenses can truly hang with this offense. So they're going to be putting up points. Even with Mahomes seemingly being a little bit more inconsistent than he's been in the past. Mahomes his stats are improving because the offense is humming, they're protecting him, and the scheme's been very good. But I feel like individually, Mahomes is a little bit more inaccurate than he's been in past years. But I have the Chiefs at number 2. And at number 1, the Bucs. I feel like I should reward the team that's been most consistent, even despite all the injuries. Now, I will say, an extremely beat-up Bucs team, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to the Lions. But at full strength, it's hard to argue that the Bucs really have a weakness. Todd Bowles has been better this year. Baker has been arguably the best quarterback in the league. The O-line, if it gets a bit healthier, is a top 10, with maybe the best left tackle in the league. Their receiving core might be the best in the league when healthy. Their running game is good, if not really good. Their run defense is really good. They have Levante David in the middle. Their corners this year are very underrated, and Winfield's playing really well. I don't know if they really have a weakness, when they are at full strength. They can score as many points as anyone in the league. They can stop your run game. They're very creative defensively with their blitzes. Maybe pass defense at times, but I do feel like their corners, when healthy, are very good. So, I don't know. This is the team that feels like most complete at the moment. But it's also a projection because this team is very beat up. Now, like I said with the Niners have guys out for the season. 2 Hall of Famers. I made an argument earlier, the Niners might have been the team that I would have picked out of the NFC if they were healthy. The Bucs, they have a lot of injuries, but at least these players are coming back. That's a big deal. So at number 1, I have Tampa Bay. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't be a jabroni. And we'll see you in the next one. Deuces.